Welcome to this explainer. Today we're tackling what is honestly a massive technological curveball, one that seemed to disrupt society literally overnight. We are, of course, talking about e-cigarettes. I mean, it's a product that just came out of nowhere, right? It pitted public health advocates against a booming industry and left regulators totally scrambling to keep up. So the big question, are they a revolutionary tool that could save millions of lives or a dangerous new vector for addiction? Let's break down the facts, the law, and the complex moral calculus at the heart of this unfolding quandary.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the e-cigarette boom, then check out the legal landscape, move into lifestyle in the workplace, tackle the ethical debate, and finally, wrap up with some practical recommendations.
Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, the e-cigarette boom, and why it's such a disruptive technology. To really wrap our heads around the legal and ethical scramble going on here, we first have to grasp the sheer velocity of this market. $2 billion. By 2013, the e-cigarette market had exploded into a massive $2 billion industry. To put that into perspective, back in 2008, only about 50,000 of these devices were sold. Fast forward just 4 years to 2012, boom, 5 million. It's a market shift of literally unprecedented speed, drawing in nimble startup companies and those massive traditional tobacco giants alike.
But what exactly is the technology driving this huge boom? At its core, an e-cigarette is basically just a battery-operated tube. You've got a battery that powers a coil, and that coil heats up a liquid solution, which is usually laced with nicotine and various flavorings, turning it into a steam-like vapor. You inhale this vapor, which is where the term vaping comes from. And the whole goal here is to closely mimic the physical sensation of smoking a traditional tobacco product without actually burning tobacco.
Now, it's absolutely crucial to notice the stark physical contrast between these two products. Traditional cigarettes rely entirely on combustion. You burn the tobacco, it creates smoke, and that releases tar, carbon monoxide, and a bunch of known carcinogens. But e-cigarettes, they don't burn anything. Without that combustion, there's no traditional smoke and no lingering odor. Just a vapor that quickly dissipates. And this right here is the crux of the debate. Proponents point to this as undeniable evidence of a much safer alternative. Meanwhile, critics look at the exact same device and see a highly appealing, super accessible vehicle for nicotine addiction.
Let's move to Section 2, the legal landscape, and see how regulators are desperately trying to catch up to the tech.
You know, whenever a disruptive technology alters society this quickly, the law is inevitably forced to play catch-up. And the FDA's struggle to regulate tobacco and nicotine? Well, it's been a really long road. Actually, let's look back at 1996. The FDA tried to regulate tobacco then, arguing that nicotine was a drug. But in 2000, the Supreme Court stepped in and blocked them, saying they lacked the specific congressional authority to do so. That finally changed in 2009 thanks to the Tobacco Control Act. Armed with this new authority, the FDA officially set its sights on e-cigarettes, and they eventually released a landmark set of proposed rules in 2014.
So what did these 2014 proposed rules actually do? They established some pretty fundamental boundaries. The FDA aimed to officially prohibit sales to anyone under 18, mandate health warnings on the packaging, and completely ban vending machine sales unless they were located in strictly adult-only facilities. Now, anti-smoking advocates definitely applauded these steps, but many felt they didn't go nearly far enough. They pointed out that the rules didn't ban the sweet, candy-like flavors that critics argue are deliberately designed to attract teenagers.
All right, moving right along to Section 3, lifestyle in the workplace.
While federal regulators are busy hashing out those broad rules, a completely different battle is brewing at the local level, and it affects us directly. Let me ask you a question. Can your boss actually fire you for vaping on your own time in the privacy of your own home? Well, the answer depends heavily on where you live. You see, many states have enacted what are called lifestyle protection statutes. These are designed to stop employers from interfering in your off-the-clock life. So, generally speaking, as long as the product is legal and you're using it legally outside of work, your job is completely safe.
But, and this is a big button, that protection isn't absolute. Employers can legally intervene if an employee's off-duty habit violates a bona fide occupational requirement or if it creates a direct conflict of interest. Think about it this way. Say you are the lead spokesperson for a major anti-tobacco nonprofit and you're photographed publicly vaping. In that case, your employer could absolutely argue that your off-duty conduct directly damages their core business interests. It's a super delicate balancing act between your personal privacy and the company's corporate reputation.
Now for Section 4, the ethical debate. We are transitioning from the letter of the law to the realm of morality.
You know, the law only tells us what we can do. Ethics asks what we really should do. And to analyze the morality of e-cigarettes without just relying on our gut feelings, we can look at a few major Western ethical frameworks. Let's start with ethical egoism. This argues we should maximize long-term self-interest. So an employer might ethically support e-cigarettes if they help employees quit smoking, because hey, that lowers corporate healthcare costs. Then there's ethical relativism, where morality is dictated by societal norms. Basically, if society views vaping as trendy, it becomes morally acceptable within that culture. But if society heavily stigmatizes it, well then it's morally unacceptable.
Then we have the philosopher Immanuel Kant. Kant believed you shouldn't judge an action by its consequences, but by the form of the action itself. According to his categorical imperative, human beings must be treated with respect, never merely as a means to an end. So the crucial point here is that while fully informed adults choosing to vape is morally permissible because it respects their autonomy, marketing a highly addictive substance to minors, that is intrinsically immoral. Under this framework, it's just exploiting their youth for corporate profit.
In sharp contrast to Kant, we have utilitarianism. This is what's known as a consequentialist theory. Utilitarians argue that the morality of an action is determined purely by its outcomes. It's honestly almost like a mathematical equation. Does the action produce the greatest balance of good over bad, of pleasure over pain for all the stakeholders involved?
When it comes to e-cigarettes, that utilitarian math gets incredibly complex, and this brilliantly illustrates why. You have to weigh the impact on so many diverse groups. You've got addicted smokers who might finally find a life-saving alternative, and non-smokers who are spared from secondhand smoke. But on the flip side, you have minors who might be lured into a brand new addiction, and let's not forget the employers managing healthcare premiums or the governments eyeing all those new tax revenues.
All of this creates the ultimate utilitarian dilemma. How do you scientifically weigh the potential benefit of transitioning millions of adult smokers away from deadly combustible tar against the terrible risk of hooking a brand new generation of teenagers on nicotine? Because the long-term scientific data is still unfolding, this specific ethical equation remains incredibly difficult for regulators and for society as a whole to solve impartially.
Finally, let's wrap things up with Section 5, Practical Recommendations.
So how on earth do stakeholders navigate a space where the science isn't totally settled, but the market is moving at light speed? Well, for employers, the primary takeaway is to carefully monitor the rapidly evolving patchwork of state and local laws. Before you update corporate wellness programs or HR policies to either ban or encourage e-cigarettes, consulting legal counsel is absolutely crucial. And for manufacturers and retailers, the ethical and practical mandates are pretty clear. Be completely transparent about the chemical ingredients in your vaping liquids and implement rigorous, proactive measures to make sure your marketing and your products do not find their way into the hands of youth. Ultimately, society is standing at a major crossroads with this technology. We're left to weigh the incredible potential for harm reduction against the undeniable risks of a new addictive epidemic. So what do you think? Are e-cigarettes a vital, life-saving cessation tool for millions of adults? Or are they a Machiavellian device designed to secure a brand new generation of consumers? The laws and ethical debates are going to continue to unfold, and it's a quandary we will all have to carefully consider moving forward.